Welcome back. Episode 106 of the Grouch and the Brainstorm. I'm Mike, and I'm joined here today with Jill.
Hey, guys.
And Matt. Oh, I'm sorry. That's Rod. And Rod.
Hello.
And Matt.
Hey, everybody.
And I accidentally hit Rod there. So, guys, we're going to have to...
We're both real handsome, so it's probably confusing for people.
I got my Matt cam mixed up with my...
You don't want to do that with anybody.
My guest cam. So, we what we'll do is we'll just start around the table and see how everybody's been doing. Matt, how have you been doing?
Man, I'm great. Just enjoying our beautiful spring weather that we'll probably get for about a week, and then it'll be 185 degrees for the next 6 months.
Well, let's hope it turns out a little bit under 185.
Man, I tell you what, I mean, it's spring is just awesome. I love it. I
do too.
It's so nice working outside. When you work outside year round, you get a few weeks every year that are just like, man, this is what it's all about. And this is one of those weeks. So, yeah, just getting ready for the year and phone ringing off the hook already. So
good.
Yeah.
Jill, how about you? How you been? What you been up to?
I am all right. Working and doing the same things I normally do. The pigs escaped today.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll talk about that in a second.
Oh, you know?
Oh, I do, yeah.
I hope Mike had to catch them.
I've been here for a while.
Oh, my gosh. How funny.
Well, I mean, what'd you do? How did you discover the pigs?
My dad told me
Oh.
that they were screaming outside of his RV door at him.
Okay.
And
I could just see Mike looking at two pigs like, how do I get these
he didn't
pigs?
mention anything about anybody else.
I don't know if your dad's seen me, but I was here for 2 or 3 hours, and then I left for about an hour, and then I came back, and
Yeah, he said he put him back in the pen and fed him, and that's all he said.
okay.
Yeah, but otherwise everything's pretty good.
Did you get the box of medicine that was left at the front door?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, in the refrigerator.
Okay. Yeah, it was outside, so I brought it in. At least
Thank
it's a little
you.
cooler in here than it is
Absolutely.
outside. And this is Rod H. And Rod, you want to introduce yourself? Tell everybody who you are.
I'm Rod H. And everything's been doing good. I can do without this pollen. Pollen tears me up. But other than that, just work and going through life.
Well, okay. We're glad to have you on the show today, dude.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
We are. And I have been up to almost absolutely nothing. Except
I don't believe that.
Well, I mean, my normal just hoorah, but, getting back in the swing, coming back. So I pulled up in Jill's driveway today, and I get up to the house, and yes, there are 2 pigs in front of the house. And so I grabbed my gear. I carried cases and backpacks and all this stuff with all this podcast crap with me. And I'm thinking as soon as I step out of the car, they'll take off running. Because when they were kids, that's what they did, right? Mm-hmm. They didn't. They ran up to me and mud all over my shoes, like they just covered I've since wiped them down.
No.
Yeah, I went up to the club a little while ago and no one was there, so I went in and wiped my shoes off. But yeah, like they're making all kind of hooting and hollering noises and just
Dad said they were very upset. He's like, "Did you feed them?" I was like, "Yes, I did."
But they're pigs. So upset is, feeding them wise.
There is a spoiled pig syndrome, and so
spoiled pig syndrome. That's a thing.
It is a thing, and I think that they're pretty much there.
Yeah, they're living good. They're living good out here. It's probably the same thing as spoiled human syndrome, and I know all about that one. Let me tell you.
Same.
Yeah, but
So what do you know about spoiled human? And
well, I deal with plenty of those.
you?
Well, no, not me, sir. I just, we're around the world, and you see a lot of that. But I didn't know they did that with pigs as well. So.
Yeah, if you feed them too much or give them what they want and just overfeed them, they become like that. And I haven't overfed them, but maybe I didn't give them as much as I normally do this morning. So they busted out and made a scene clearly. Because I was like, called my dad after work. He's like, "What's up?" And I was like, "Hey, what you been doing?" He goes, "Well," and I was like, "What happened?" I said, "Did the boys get out?" He was like, "Did they?" And then went into the whole, deal.
Did the boys get out?
Yeah.
It may secretly be the highlight of his day, though.
He really enjoys them.
Yeah. He probably does. That's them old guys too. They like to act like it's a pain in the ass, but really they're like, they're all right.
That's totally him. Yeah. And he was like, and by the way, you need to clean out their pool and put new water in it.
We have a dog, and the whole family's like, you hate that dog, but the dog loves me. And the thing is, they just think I hate the dog. I want them to think that I don't like the dog.
Lies.
Guys, I've got a weird sense of humor, but I'm sitting here thinking
Do you have
about
a pig story?
Pigs, but you could change that to ex-wife syndrome.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. That's a whole other syndrome, though. That's
I don't even know if I'm gonna.
Yeah, don't even get me started on the ex-husband syndrome. Just kidding, I don't know.
I'm on the diving board. My toes are hanging off the edge of that one, but I'm gonna back up. I'm gonna just let that one go. So, but there is such a thing. I'll agree with you on that. So.
Well, if you can't tell, we're trying something new, and the folks in the room here can't. But me and Matt are currently in my living room right now. So that's what you see up on the screen is that is my living room. Matt is sitting on the left-hand side, and I'm sitting on the right-hand side of my guitars. So
I saw those. Did you see what I was like?
Yeah. So
I was like, what?
Yeah, we're trying the whole green screen thing, to see how it works out, and it's not working out too good with this right here. But
yeah, that looks like
it's on fire, don't
or
it?
like trying to disappear or something.
That's just insane. But it gives it a little better look, and I can adjust it. I had one like a NASA control room. I had one that had just my desk with my computer on it, and then you can have them where you're inside of a strip club or
on the beach, in the forest.
Beach, yeah, or inside the koala club in the forest. Yeah, you could have one inside the forest. You could be out there duck hunting or doing some of those things, but that's that's what we got. That's what we're working with.
I like it.
Well, it kind of takes away from some of the monotony, and it looks like we're doing a remote podcast. Where in fact, we're just in a room upstairs with green sheets hanging behind me and Matt. So, and I had actually hung sheets all the way around the room, and my equipment only allows me to do 2 cameras with green sheets.
Oh, okay. Okay, because I came in, I was like, but you need a sheet here. And
I did not know that.
You're like, hold up.
No, I had sheets lined up all the way around the room, and it just didn't work out.
Okay. So, yeah. It still looks like we're in the same room, though.
And yeah.
Your side has guitars.
Well, I mean, yeah. Your side has saddles. So Matt's side has guitars. Rod has the TV in the back, and so it's all nice.
We're throwing everybody a curveball. That's
curveball. Next time we may be remote live. We may all be on the same side and just kind of sit around and look at each other from a distance, talk like that.
Let's do.
We can do that. I can just get a couch put up here, and we could just sit on a couch and do the podcast on a couch.
Yeah.
You think you like that?
I'm in.
You're in. All right. So, any birthdays or anything, Matt, that you can think of?
Coleman.
That was.
Yeah, Coleman, yes.
Okay.
Happy birthday to you.
How many years did he have?
I don't know.
Well, we got it. Well, Coleman has his own music. Is this it right here?
I think, man, I want to say 10, but I might be lying.
No, it's 13. Let's see.
Is it?
That's our regular announcement. So we're going to go with our regular announcement. It's going to be that we have listeners in Poland.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
cool.
Welcome.
We managed to get some listeners in Poland. It'd be neat if one day we found out it's just one person traveling the globe doing all this, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But we do have listeners in Poland, and of course,
there it is.
Coleman got 13.
Coleman's walkout song.
Coleman
right there.
has his own music. Anytime we mention Coleman on the show, we have to play the
100 episodes. He's the only one that does not have the Grouch and Brainstorm music to start the podcast.
That's right.
If you go back,
And if you know,
Yeah,
you
he
know.
has some
Yeah,
kind of.
yeah.
I don't remember what it was.
Coleman is just a legend. That's all there is to that. So
And you know what? Legends deserve announcement music.
they do.
twice, so
They do. I mean, you know, he is.
we're proud of Coleman. We're proud
Yes,
of
we
Coleman.
are.
we are.
Congratulations.
That's a big deal.
And
you know?
he celebrated a birthday, and then he turned around, and like 2 days later, he gets his recovery birthday, and it kind of meshes into one huge weekend
no.
Of Coleman.
of
Celebrating
frolicking,
Coleman, yeah.
doing frolicking things, whatever frolic. And if you know Coleman, frolicking fits.
Yes, it
So,
does.
And it's right there at St. Patrick's Day. I do remember that.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but anyway, that's the two announcements: Coleman's birthday and his recovery birthday, and then our listeners in Poland, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And we're up to 176 followers. And I did not look and see how many streams we are up to. So let's look at that right quick before we get to rolling. I wish it still did like a big one, like a total, but I have to go finding the total. So, but we do have like 9,600 total streams in the almost 2 years that we've been doing this. So 9,320 to
Nice.
be exact. Yeah. On average, we do about 40 since we switched to video. Our videos usually get about 40, and our audio gets about 30. So somewhere in the 70 range, depending on which format they do. And because of time restraints, we may strictly be going video, or we may still be going audio video. I do know that the audio transfers over to those websites that do not offer the video service. So iHeartRadio will get the audio, but it will not get the video. But anyway, YouTube, we have to manually post both.
Right.
So, man, it might sound a little confusing, but, it's not. So, but anyway, we are the Grouch and the Brainstorm. As you can see up on the monitor, guys, this is the view that our listeners/viewers are going to be seeing. And we are going to talk today about a topic that Matt and Rod had previously discussed. So, Matt, you want to get us rolling and lead on into Rod?
Well, and we don't need to go that deep with it. It wasn't that deep of a thought. It was actually the Daily Reflection a couple of days ago, and Rod happened to share on it, and I was listening. I was like, man, that'd be a good topic. And we probably touched on it here or there, but never really got into it. And so I asked him, I said, hey, let's do one on that topic. So, but we were talking about it. It works till it doesn't work. Alcohol, drugs, whatever it might be. For me, it was both, and that's a big deal. And kind of that realization and that turning point to get you to sobriety is like, hey, this isn't working. So, but I'm gonna let Rod kind of introduce himself and kind of tell maybe a little of how you got to that point and go from there.
Sure. Yeah, the other day, in the Daily Reflections, I try to look at things on as far as how they impact my life, and got to thinking about it. And, that was the deal. Alcohol worked until it didn't. And that one sentence completely wraps up my drinking career. I mean, it really does. And, I don't think any of you guys have ever heard much of my story, if all. So, I guess in getting started with this, I ought to give at least a little background history.
Absolutely, go ahead.
And so, I'm 61 years old, and most of that time period, I had drank, and anytime some type of life trouble or whatever came into play, I drank heavier, and consequently, when I was in college, back in the early 80s, and
You were in college in the early 80s?
yes, I did.
Goodness gracious alive.
81 I started.
Man, that's like the John Belushi era.
I
Right
know,
there,
it
man.
was.
It was.
He was
he
my
said.
hero.
Let's just say I wouldn't have made it through it.
That's like pre-Wham.
He was my hero, man.
Yeah.
I love Wham.
But anyhow, I was drinking heavy in those college days, away from my high school girlfriend, sweetheart, if you will. And, at one point, she decided to break up with me because I was going off to college, and we wasn't together as much as we used to be, and consequently, she found somebody else. And oddly enough, once she decided she found somebody else and was going to get married to them, she decided she was going to go to college where I was at. And we
Rude.
actually shared a class together.
So
And
when y'all shared a class, she was engaged?
she was engaged.
Wow.
And it pissed me off because she sat right next to me on my right side to where she could.
Oh,
She would twinkle
showcase
that
the
little
ring.
Wow.
you know.
shit.
Anyhow, I ended up doing better in that class than she did anyway. So that was my.
Did you graduate from
You're like,
college? Did you finish college?
I did actually finish.
And where was this, Rod?
This was in Monroe in
Oh,
Northeast.
okay. Yeah. It used to be called Northeast.
Northeast,
Now it's called ULM.
ULM.
Yeah.
So anyhow, I was drinking pretty heavy during that time, and oddly enough, she ended up getting a divorce, and life happens, and we ended up getting married later, and
You ended up getting married to each other later?
yes,
Yeah, it just keeps
Okay.
getting better.
Did
and
you
better.
remind her you made better grades?
This kind of reminds me of this kind of reminds me of Joe Dirt whenever he's telling his story to oh boy, and everybody in the world starts listening, and all of a sudden they just want to know what's going on with Joe Dirt. You know what I mean? You know, Jill. Mm-hmm. So go ahead, Rod. I'm
So anyhow, life went on and fairly good for about 23 years, and then we kind of grew apart, and that's when my drinking really picked up because we grew apart and decided to get a divorce, and tripping about on what's going to happen in the future really doesn't sit well with me, and so I didn't have anybody to be accountable to, and just wondering how the property settlement was going to go on, and this and that and other, and that's when I really started drinking. It was a heavy, everyday occurrence.
So about how old was this?
That was 09, so however long 09 was,
15
about 15
years,
years ago.
Okay.
And that's when my drinking really started getting out of hand. It was an everyday experience, like I said, and then, I met a lady that we started dating about 4 or 5 months later, and, trying to manage both things there, it really got wild for a while, because you're trying to, you're worrying about the future, what's going to happen. You're trying to start a new relationship, getting rid of the old one, wondering, my life was a scramble at the time, I had my daughter was in college. I was having to pay for her, being in college and stuff like that, and didn't know what situation my monetary situation was going to be in, and didn't want to run out and get something. I ended up staying with my mom for a while, and that didn't work out too well. We kind of butted heads over the new relationship, and at the same time, my dad was married to a woman at the time, and they were wondering how this new relationship was going to go, and they're talking to me, and I don't want to get into too much details, but she ended up sticking her nose into too much of my business, and doing some background stuff and this and that and other, and it just got really, really hairy for a while, and so anyhow, that being said, one thing led to another, and Dad ended up getting sick, and that created some issues with the family business, and things kept changing with him as far as whether or not, let's see, how my future was going to be affected, let's just say.
I got you.
And depending on whether or not his relationship was going good. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so, anyhow, it just got too crazy, and Dad ended up passing away in 14. And again, the whole time, I'm trying to, the divorce is gone and over with. That all worked out the way it was supposed to work out, and I get along with her today. I probably get along better with my ex now than I ever did when we were married.
And I see that happen quite often.
And so, in any event, things still continued there with my father, and his wife at the time was again continuing to cause issues with my new relationship as well as with me, and it was either Dad was with me or he was against me, kind of deal. And finally, he decided he was going to get a divorce, and he ended up moving in with me, and was there he was there exactly 2 months before he passed away. And but we ended things on a good relationship. We worked out our issues. He knew where I was coming from, and everything worked out good as far as that goes. Well, then comes the estate and how to settle the estate and stuff, and that was another big turning point in my life as far as freaking out and wondering how things were going to go, and a stress deal. And y'all know how it is. I mean, we got a saying, live life on life's terms, and that kind of deal. And it is ironically, before you asked me to do this after the other day, I go to 2 different meetings, and we read out of 2 different books. And the day before the meeting we went to, and you asked me to invited me over here, one of the things is living one day at a time, and not tripping.
Future tripping.
Future tripping. There you go. That's the word I was looking for. But in any event, we got through all of that, and then, life just happens. You're trying to, get on with this relationship that I started, and, life comes, and, there's kids involved, new kids and parents, and, it seems like my life was full of drama, something always happening. Yeah. And so that's the only way I knew life was supposed to be. And it's just like I was telling somebody the other day, if you've got high blood pressure, a lot of times you don't know you have high blood pressure until you take medication to lower it, and you're like, damn, this is how I'm supposed to feel, Well, that's just the same case with me in living. I thought, all this drama and, future tripping, that was just how life was supposed to be. And that's how I dealt with it. I dealt with it with alcohol. So, which leads us to, things kept on and led on to the point where, back in, 2018, I started having some back issues, physical back issues.
Yeah.
And needed to have an operation, and I was in pain so much that I could not stand up for 5 minutes at a time without being severely sick to my stomach and ill. Doctors gave me pain medication, but, being I'm a kid from back in the 60s, we had this thing in school. I want to say it was named Kodak, where people actually came to the schools and educated the kids on drugs and this and that and other, and
like how to use them,
like how not to use them, and things that happened.
Talking about the 60s, man, there's no telling what you got.
But I'm going to tell you, that program worked for me, because I was scared to death to put any kind of drug in my body, almost to the point where, even though I was in back pain at that time, I had Lortab, but I'd rarely take them. And I treated myself, with alcohol.
So did the back pain, did that come from an accident, or
No, it's just years of abuse.
I got you.
You know?
No, I get it.
I was probably doing some stupid stuff, you know,
Yeah.
at the time as kids.
Well, I've
know.
known a lot of people who have back pain, and some as a result of an injury, and some, and then here, I don't know. I always brag because I never had any of those back pains, never had a problem, and then I don't know, about 6 months ago, yeah,
I
I
was
just
hitting ya.
all of a sudden started having back pain, and I was just like, this is crazy. People really do have back pains. They're not making it up. And I don't know, it might be just holding the motorcycle up or something simple, but it triggered it. I was frying turkeys at work. I fried, I don't know, 60 turkeys one day from 5 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. And the next morning when I woke up, the pain was just it was pretty rough. It was enough for me to talk about, you know. So.
Right.
I was at home earlier today for just a minute. Lacey had a young lady call her like a sponsee type thing, and the pain medicine thing was not this lady's problem. And she called her, and they're on the phone talking, right? And she has kidney stones so bad that they've done the lithotripsy, blown them up, like she's in bad pain. And she's calling Lacey, and she goes, it says on the bottle to take one every 6 hours. Is that how I should take it? Lacey looks at me, and I went, it says, yeah, one every 6 hours. And I said, my instructions when I got them was take the whole bottle within 6 minutes. That's how I did it. And I'm not exaggerating. I used to go to like Kroger Pharmacy and bring them a refill bottle. And they're like, sir, this was filled 2 days ago. And I'm like, so what's the problem? And they're like, there's 90 of them. And I'm like, again, what's the problem? Like, we're not jihading here.
Matt
you
thought
know?
it said take 6 every 1 hour.
Yes, yes. And so anyway, that wasn't good advice. I'm glad I'm not sponsoring that young lady. But anyway, but
But anyway, go ahead and pick up where you
sorry.
are. Ryan.
Yeah. So anyhow, you know, I was treating it with alcohol, and you know, in going through all the hoops and hurdles with insurance and stuff, this process lasted about 3 years before I could finally get the surgery that helped. I mean, they tried everything. They tried the ablation where they go in and burn the nerve and do all kind of different things and different injections and what have you. And
Physical therapy,
physical
all
therapy,
the business.
and none of it worked. And so anyhow, you know, I had a little fall, which scared my wife to death, and she really got on to me about my drinking. So I decided, you know, one day I was going to go to a meeting, and you know, I went to a meeting, and you know, I thought, man, this is crazy. And I ended up noticing somebody that spoke right there at the end of the meeting that I recognized. And, you know, after the meeting, I just walked on out. And in any event, I ended up, things progressed to the point where my drinking had gotten so far out of control that we had talked about, with me and my wife, had talked about going into an inpatient facility, a rehab place. And I looked around on the different areas and places that would take my insurance and stuff, and there's a couple of places in town I was like, I am not going there. I'm just not going to be able to handle it. So anyhow, I ended up finding a place, and they did not take my insurance, and so I had to come out of pocket for it. And you know, I kept in the back of my mind thinking that if I have to pay for it, this is something that I'm probably going to follow through with,
And that
because
you're
I've
It
got
makes
an
sense.
investment
Yeah,
in it.
exactly.
No.
No.
I got out of there, and you know, I got some help. You know, I pretty much just slept all day. I wasn't there but 11 days. You know, I had a business to run and this and that and other, and you know, they wanted to keep me longer, and I decided no, I can't do it. You know, but I did start talking to a therapist at that time, and you know, she's familiar with the Koala Club, and she's one of us. And, you know, she was helping me along the way, trying to convince me to go back. So I did, you know, and
To treatment?
But
You
or
went-
to,
no, to the koala.
Okay,
To a
just
meeting.
checking.
Because
Say,
they
how many times you gonna shell out the duckies?
no. So anyhow, and the only holdback I had on that was, I just didn't think that was going to work. So I ended up calling up the guy I recognized on that very first meeting, and I didn't have his phone number. I looked it up and got it from different sources and what have you, and he'd answered my call, and I'm sure I rambled on because I was drinking at the time, but it was a morning conversation, because at that time I was used to getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, just sick as a dog, shaking and having dry heaves and having to have a few drinks, just to settle me down. And so I called him up about 9 o'clock in the morning, and I'm sure, at that time I was way into it. And he answered. We had a little brief discussion, and I asked him at the end, well, what do you think? And he said, well, I think you need to go back to the Koala Club. So that's what led me back. And I started going, and, still at that, I those first few months, I kept looking at all the differences between me and, whoever was speaking and stuff, instead of the similarities. And, we talk about that all the time now, but I didn't know it at the time,
Yeah.
So now that I'm looking back, I can see all those different things. And, that was in April of 2001. I had a trip planned to where we were going to Mexico, all-inclusive resort. You know how that goes. And so I had preconceived and said in my mind that, hey, if I can last till July 4th, I'm going to have me a drink down there.
Yeah, pat on the back, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, y'all know what happened. I mean, 2 days into it, and I was drinking a fifth of, whiskey a day. Not quite what I was up to, but, it's still a good amount. And still having those back issues. And fast forward around to around the October time frame. Up until that point, I had not gotten a sponsor. And so I had to go back on my phone and did not realize till today that in looking at some text I had with the therapist, that I actually got a sponsor on my birthday, my belly button birthday. And that was Joe J from years ago. And he ended up having to move out of town, and so I shortly thereafter got another sponsor, and old Travis. But anyhow, I ended up, my last drink was 11/26/21. On that particular day, I was having difficulty getting my my pants on, because I could only lift my legs up like 2 or 3 inches at a time. So I sat on the bathtub.
And now, is this because of the back pain or because you were so drunk?
Back pain.
Okay.
But I started my morning early,
Man.
like usual.
Oh, yeah.
And
Can't drink all day if you don't start in the morning.
that's right.
Technically,
That's
it is not all day.
right. So I sat on the bathtub trying to get my jeans on to get ready to go to work. And when I lifted a foot up, I slipped back into the tub, hit my head,
Yeah.
and
Busted it open.
busted it open. And we were talking earlier before we started recording about Phil F. And, I remember at that time when I come to, I thought I was listening to Jesus, but it was Phil's voice. And if you know Phil, he was like, I told you, you son of a bitch, you were going to die if you go back out
Booming,
there.
thundering
His voice startles me. Like every time he talks, I like jump.
Kind of almost like a loud John Wayne kind of a voice. Like,
He has a very, very
distinct.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
that's a true story.
I've heard you tell it before.
And so anyhow, I got up and got dressed and was able to get in my truck, and I was headed to work, and I happened to pass I have to pass a Walgreens, going to work, and I decided, man, I'm gonna stop in here and get a bottle of vodka, and got a V8 and vodka and quick little Bloody Mary mix, and I poured that thing up, and no ice or anything, and a cup I had laying in the truck, and I just had turned on the road, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing? I had just enough AA in my head to realize this is crazy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I threw it all out the window. Got to work, and it was several hours later. My wife's like, "What's on your head?" And I still had blood all over my head. I thought I had cleaned it up as good as I could, and no, I've got like 9 stitches on the top of my head.
Oh my gosh.
We had to go to the ER and all that good stuff, but so that leads us back to the topic. It worked until it stopped working.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's my story. Pretty much in a nutshell.
That's a pretty good story, Rob.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. I've never heard your story before, so that's kind of.
And so you probably, after you thought you cleaned it up, you probably kept bleeding.
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I remember up at the register in Walgreens, the lady looked at me and said, "What happened to your arm?" And I still had some residue of blood on there, and I said, "I don't know." And so,
Oh gosh, can I interest you in some gauze?
But I need
Here's-
this vodka.
here's the kicker. About 2 months later, I went in there for a birthday card or something. Same lady up there. You were the guy that came in here.
Man.
No, that wasn't me. That wasn't me.
You- covered in blood,
Yeah.
buying zip ties and a tarp.
Shovel.
Yeah. Yeah. You
Well, that-
got to be careful,
But
man.
that's kind of that point we get to where we go. I mean, I got to that point and then stayed in that point for probably a year, to where it's like, I know that this isn't working. This is not going to continue. It can't. But I can't do without the substances in my body just to function. But it's got to be stopped. Whether I die, whether I do whatever it might be. And I'm like you. I tried to go to one AA meeting, and then it just wigged me out. I was like, I'm not going in there. I sat out in the parking lot, and but yeah, we get to that point, and I think that's where, I don't know what else you would call it, the desperation of, and that's the problem with drugs and alcohol, man. They work for a short time. They're like a Band-Aid.
And it was short compared to the rest, how long I stayed in my addiction after it didn't work.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's the kicker with stuff, like my mother a lot brings up addiction, and we talk about it. And I'm like, that's the thing, is they do work for certain things. They have a way of smoothing things over, and it doesn't seem, it blinds you to life's pretty bumpy. All that stuff you talking about going on. And I was the same way. My life was a dumpster fire, but those things kind of kept it where I was like, that's just life. And no, it's not just life. Like, I was throwing a match on gasoline, and then it got to the point where it didn't even matter. I could take or drink or do all I had, and it was not stopping those same feelings, and then you're in a spot then. So
Right.
The thing is, like, I couldn't even see that it wasn't working. I mean, I just still thought, even though this isn't working, I still have to have it. And that's just the way the rest of my life is going to be until I was, like incredibly, incredibly sick. Throughout the decades, I mean, it changed from substance to substance. I mean, there were some that were there continually. And sometimes I just really need this Xanax, or I went to opioids and alcohol. Alcohol was a pretty much a constant, and so were Xanax. But I don't know. It just changed so much that if I can stop doing this substance, then clearly I don't have a problem with it. I'd move on to the next one, and it was ridiculous. But I couldn't even, I knew everything was going really badly for me, and I was sick, and I'd been in withdrawals for many years. Like, but to me, I was so like such a dumbass because you know the dry heaving in the morning. I never once was like, well, this is odd.
I shouldn't have had
Why
that
am I-
sandwich yesterday.
Well, and I never once
Must
was
be
like,
food poisoning.
The hummus doesn't agree with
seriously,
me.
and this is every morning. It never once
Yeah.
registered like,
Damn that avocado
Most
toast.
most people don't barf their brains out at 4 o'clock in the morning. And
well,
I bet I have cat scratch fever.
it never occurred to me. And even like with the opioids and my whole body's breaking out in these vascular asterisks. And I'm like, wow,
Vascular asterisks.
it's when your capillaries start to burst. And they were doing that all over my body, which
And that's
is
from opioids?
it's from it's what liver failure.
Oh,
What can happen during that when that starts to hit. What's that? That's odd.
must have hit my arm on something. You know? I mean, but we trick ourselves.
But isn't
That's what we do.
And that is why you probably need a sponsor. That is why, I mean, you think about it, the brain convinces you up into a certain point.
bamboozled?
You get bamboozled by your own mind.
Isn't
And
that
that's just-
crazy?
well, it's crazy when you think about it from the context we're thinking about it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm sorry. I've used this example a lot on the show, but you go 2 or 3 days without eating after you tell yourself you're going to go 7, and your brain is going to start coming up with reasons why you should eat, and eventually you're going to believe your brain and you're going to do it.
Yeah.
For some reason that brain is just, we don't understand the brain.
It's
and
just powerful, and it's just like bewildering that I just totally
But you know,
fooled myself.
that getting to that realization, I kind of thought on this since the other day, and you and I were in that meeting, and I was thinking about some today, and you go a little further for me, and then I went, oh, okay, I'm 90 days removed from all those substances. They're no longer in my body, but I'm still a train wreck. Like, what's going on now? That's when the real, oh no, like I got a problem here. And the problem was Matthew. It was not,
Oh yeah.
you know, and that's
All
where,
the things you were blaming and
yeah,
convinced.
and it's like, hey, I mean, and my counselor I had at rehab, she said, you hadn't touched a drug in 90 days. You hadn't had a drink in 90 days. And I'm like, oh, it's me then. It's got to be me. I'm the only one here. So,
well,
when we get there, though, that's a good place to be when we finally figure that out.
you know, it works till you don't, right? And the truth is, the very first time I did it, if I'd have woke up the next morning and everything I had was completely gone, I probably would have gotten the hint. But these things don't happen overnight.
Yeah.
It's just such a long, drawn out, and then for some reason there, and I think I was about 27 years old. I believe I was 27. You cross a line, you can't get back across. And for some reason, I guess it's at that age, you don't think you're going to really ever cross a line, even though you hear people talk about it a lot. You know, you just think, you know, whatever. You know, it's kind of like the Sasquatch
Yeah, sure.
of myths, right? You don't think it, and then all of a sudden you look up and I've crossed a line. I can't get back across. May as well have a drink now. I'm across it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Rod, 61 when you got sober. Is that right? Or no, sorry, you're 61 now.
61 now.
And how old was you when you got sober?
That was almost 4 years ago.
So you were basically 67. I'm 57, I'm sorry.
57.
You know, so that is 57. That's a later in life age. You know, not that you're an old guy. You're not
Right.
much older than me. You know, you're 9 years older than me. But my point is, it's never too late either to get sober.
You're right.
And, you know, we see kids from 16, 15, and then people all the way up in their 70s and 80s come in and get sober. And, you know, my hat's off to anybody that gets sober. And you know, because but where I'm going with that is we don't know at 55 I'm going to stop because I've had enough. We don't know it. You know, at 38 I had enough. And it worked, to be honest with you. It worked. I mean, it just worked. if it wasn't for consequences, and I mean health consequences, legal consequences, family, all the consequences. If it wasn't for consequences, I wouldn't have quit. That's just the truth. I mean, because it worked, but it required more and more of whatever I was doing. So you mentioned a fifth, and well, a fifth to me is boot liquor. You just carry that around in your boot.
Right.
After you've already really drank, you carry around a fifth. But I had started drinking a fifth a day when I was about 27 years old, 28 years old. And then by the time I quit, it was a half gallon, and it wasn't even a day. It was at a time. So I couldn't even put a time frame on it, right? It would just it was a big plastic jug looking thing, rather nice bottle, and pop it open, take the top off, and just chug it right there, and then wake up hours later in the same spot with maybe an inch or two left in there and just finish that off. But that's what it required. It didn't,
Well, that's the thing with it. I mean,
where would I end up though? A five-gallon drum? I mean, carrying around a 50-gallon drum in the back of the truck with a hose coming through the. I mean.
Yeah, and I think that's what we do. We're like, okay, so this isn't working, so let's do more, and maybe it'll work then, and then we continue to do that until
Well, it did.
until.
It's almost like interest in the IRS. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger
Yeah.
and bigger.
This was in another state, but I was around this time where I ended
now,
up
are we
going to
talking
treatment.
state of mind or state?
Well,
like
both.
Okay.
Both. Definitely a different state of mind and a different state for that matter. But leading up to that, going to treatment, and luckily some people in behind the scenes that I didn't even know about were trying to get me into treatment, and they worked out something to get me in there, and it was great, and it saved my life. But my routine, I'm working the grass business, and my routine was get up, throwing up, doing all that stuff, wash a bunch of pills down, go pick up the boss, pull up at his house. He's pouring Apple Crown in coffee cups on the counter. It's 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning. He's throwing up. I'm throwing up. We're chugging the Crown. You throw the first one up, and then so that's to get started for the day.
Sure.
I've already taken a bunch of pills. Then we're taking speed throughout the day, pills, smoking pot, got coolers of beer, because we have to stay hydrated when we're out there working, in the sun. Do you know what kind of garbage can human you're dealing with when you do that every day? And then I remember coming home, and I would drop him off, and I was so miserable. Just the way I was just like, I have to do this thing every day. There's that country song, I got to get drunk and I don't want to do it. You ever heard that one?
I don't think I've heard
Yeah,
that.
old song.
That
but
particular
that's
song.
exactly what it's about. It's like I got to do it anyway. I can't help it. I got to do it even if And I would drive home every day. There's a huge pine tree in this curve, and I've told this before. And I would just be thinking about it driving, and I'm like, I'm just gonna hold the truck straight in the curve, hit the tree, it'll be done. I ain't got to worry about it. And I remember I would do it every day. It would start this thing in my head. And I remember driving home one day, and I was high as a satellite, okay? Everything that you
That'd be
could
a
want to
Georgia
put in
satellite?
as a Sputnik satellite. And so everything that you could have in your body that you would think, I'm content with where I'm at, I was miserable. And I'm like, I'm this high, and I'm thinking about killing myself. This is there's something not right here. And that was kind of that progression those last few months. And
Imagine being that high and thinking about getting high.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I did though. It was never enough. It was never enough.
You ever drank yourself sober?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You drank straight through the drunk, and then you find yourself sober after. You should, seriously, you could.
Yeah,
You go work some farm equipment or something, man.
Yeah.
You ain't.
I mean, no, I don't think that's happened.
Yeah.
But I mean, cocaine did that for me.
So, Rob, was yours just drinking?
Mine was just drinking.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a fear. I had always had a fear when I got to a certain point of running out. So, I made sure I wasn't out. I kept a half gallon at work. I had a half gallon in the truck, and I had one at home. And,
Problem was, I'd always drink my stash.
yeah, well, here's the secret. When
Please tell.
when my truck bottle got low, I'd swap out bottles with the one at the house, and get my wife to go ahead and, buy another bottle while she was out. That kept me from having to.
And it's
go every
always
day,
nice
but-
to have someone at
Yeah.
home that'll pick it up for you.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
The whole time I'm telling you, you need to
I
quit.
shouldn't be telling everybody my
Oh, it's
secrets.
okay, man. It's
That's
okay.
all right.
I don't like when folks come on here, and I think we all in this recovery community, and I hear sometimes people go, "It was just alcohol." That's one of the most damaging. Like, it's a big deal,
Well, no,
Like,
the reason I said that was because I was he could understand more about the drinking yourself through to another
sure,
sober. I mean, I can imagine you can cocaine yourself into sober pretty quick.
Well, I meant from like if I was drinking, then have cocaine, it sobers you up pretty
Well,
quickly.
like I was a pill guy, so Adderall is speed. That's all it is. It's just in a pill form. You can take that and drink like Superman for days at a time, and you're
forever.
it never stops. And so, yeah, you're talking about drinking
Stimulants,
yourself.
yeah, definitely do
so,
that.
So it's
I bet your bladder's just
man,
beating
like,
you
and we
up,
would
man.
work 12-hour days. I mean, we're fist fighting on the cruise, and I mean, it's everybody on the cruise like that. I mean, headbutting people. It was outrageous.
Wow.
And
the life of a WWE star.
man, look, and then we're driving vehicles all over town. I mean, like,
I mean, it's not funny. Like I'm.
I mean,
like,
Pulling heavy equipment too at the same time.
oh yeah,
I can
big
imagine.
trailers, heavy equipment. Just any dumbass thing you could do, we're doing. And then you have all these guys that, as long as it wasn't in front of a customer, the boss didn't care. He's with us. I mean, I'm picking him up. We're drinking together. So it just progressed all day like that, and that was our day. And the last couple years, I mean,
it's really interesting if you think about this. How many people are drinking and driving on the road?
oh yeah,
Because we only know about the ones that, get DWIs, but all the people that don't, right?
Yeah.
sure.
I did.
And I mean, like I drove
I
drunk
never
every
got
day.
I got one.
I never got one.
I got just one.
I got one. But I was actually thinking about this the other day. I was sitting at a red light, and I remember like being drunk, driving, and sitting at a red light, and I thinking everybody around me is kind of looking around to see who's drinking and driving, and they're all kind of looking at me, So I need to be, and like nobody's thinking about that. Nobody.
I did hit someone though
I did
at a
too.
red light.
I did too.
And they came and looked around. They were like, "It's fine, got to go by," And I was like,
Oh, recently.
"They're screwed."
Like,
oh
what-
no, this was way back. I mean,
was
I
they
was
in a vehicle?
yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, this was
Thought
me
you ran a
bumping into
pedestrian down.
their car, and this was in my addiction. I was drunk, and I was like, "Oh shit."
Well, mine, whenever this has been 20-something years ago, but we come to a red light. I didn't completely stop. I might have been going half a mile an hour, and I hit the back of an older couple. And he gets out, and it wasn't half a minute into talking to him. He could tell, and he's like, "Man, you need to get out of here. You need to get out of here right." And then I just want to keep talking, and the next thing you know, the
Talked your way into it.
officer shows up, and for some reason we have to take a test.
Yeah. No, that other
we're on the Uri Drive, and we got to take a test.
Damn, the other couple wanted to get out pretty quick, so I was like, I think they were pretty screwed up too.
Well, they an older couple as well.
No, I mean they were just a couple.
Well, I mean, if you ever watch Cocoon, it wouldn't surprise you. There's some older folks like Wilford Brimley's age,
Right,
running
escaping the
Diabetes.
nursing home.
diabetes. Mhm. That guy was like 50 when he made all those commercials. I'm 50.
Yeah, it's like the Golden Girls when they were filming were like 50.
And the lady on
I don't know about the little one.
Archie
That old-
Bunker.
that one's
No, no,
old
what-
as hell.
Edith Bunker was like 39.
Yeah, they look 100.
Yeah, good thing they keep putting fluoride in water, man, because it just keeps getting us
I
younger.
think it's
and
the
younger.
hairdos.
Or I think we just don't realize how old we look.
I think the quality of TV too, if you look at it, like
Makes
you can't,
people younger
yeah,
as well.
It looks a little,
Yeah, you
Well,
remember
that
back
and
when?
plastic surgery.
Do you remember back when we had like you had to TVs had antennas, Rod? You remember?
Oh my
Oh, yeah.
God.
yeah.
And you had to turn them a certain way. You had
That
to
Yes.
tinfoil on them, bro.
they had tinfoil on them or
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
And when you hooked the VCR up, there were two little fork-looking things, and you had to put them in the UHF or the VHF, and then you had to turn the knob to channel 3 whatever. Y'all remember that?
Remember having?
I remember sitting by the console because I was the remote. I had to turn the knob.
And everybody and their brother had one of those TVs that sat in this wooden box that was really long.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's it, the console.
Yeah. And then like years later, you get a flat screen. It'd be sitting on top of it with some kind of shawl or something draped down over the top of it. You know, my grandma and grandpa had good reason to hang on to theirs because it had a record player. And we didn't come from
entertainment center.
tons of money, but they had an actual LP player, right? And the console TV. And then the other side had something, you know, some other finagling thing. And
Some bar, kind of like bar type situation going on.
and you kept all your albums, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
underneath, you know, and some people still listen to albums. I mean, I get it, but
Yeah.
you don't have to. Well, I mean, it's probably
Hey,
cheaper.
people
to
love
stream.
vinyl. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a big.
It's
you know.
still it's still a big deal.
Well,
you know?
we still have a lot of record players. You own a record player, Ron?
I do.
Yeah, a lot of people do. So I don't personally. You know,
No, I haven't had one since the 90s.
You ever know anybody with a record player in their car? That'd be a baller.
That's
right
not a
there.
thing.
Drive down the road.
It
with
is. It is a thing.
Balone.
Yeah.
It will
Oh
be
my God,
after this
did I just
episode
make up
airs.
a word? Balone?
Balone.
Balone.
Ray Balone. Yeah.
For real?
Record players in your car, man. You just
Okay.
get
I mean,
out.
I remember my grandfather having the 8-track, you know.
I was gonna say when we were kids, my dad bought this car. He always bought like crappy used cars. Like I never remember my dad ever having a car. But anyway, the people didn't even clean the car out. Like they're just like, take it. So
Take
so
it. DNA
we get
everything.
in, and there's all these cartridges in the back on the floorboard. It's got like a picture of like the Oak Ridge Boys or whatever.
The
And we're
Oak
like,
Ridge Boys.
dude,
Didn't
when
one
did-
of them recently pass away?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
But we're looking at it and we're like, dude, is this an Atari game? Will this go in our Atari? And my dad's like, no, son, those are 8-tracks. And I'm like, it doesn't look like a fun game with the dang Oak Ridge Boys on it. I don't know if we're going to play that one. But anyway.
Now, when I was a kid, my dad had it was a Dodge Demon, 1979, I want to say. And he was awful young to have that kind of car.
What the hell is a demon?
It was like a Duster, it was a Challenger Duster type situation with
Okay,
a big old
okay.
hood scoop on the front, but it had an 8-track player in it, you know. So I do remember. Of course, we back then we were jamming to some Christian music, you know, Christian rock, or I don't even think they had Christian rock. It was-
Striper.
No, it was way past, way before. This guy, you can tell he's 10 years younger than I am. Like Striper.
Striper was 80s.
Yeah, this was in the 70s.
Oh, the 70s.
Yeah, you know,
What
we
did,
had-
you listen to the Osmond
What was it, like a
Brothers.
Led Zeppelin knockoff
Andre
in the 70s?
Crouch.
Oh, yeah. I
and
know who that is.
There was another
The
group.
Osmonds.
No, we didn't. We didn't listen to the Osmonds.
Oh, okay.
We had to watch some show with the Osmonds, like on Saturday or some. So, yeah, I talk about work till it don't work. You know what I mean? They played the hell
That's
out
what
of that.
sucked too, with having the 3 channels and the rabbit ears. Whatever was on was what you were watching.
That's
it wasn't
right.
like, hey, we're gonna choose our show
Well, I can
tonight.
tell you, I was educated by Louisiana Public Broadcasting.
Yeah, I liked it. That's,
Heck, we had to watch Lawrence Welk.
Yeah.
Ooh.
My grandmother and
the
grandfather
Waltons.
made me. Oh, I love the Walt. But my grandmother and grandfather made me watch that. My dad made me watch a show called Austin City Limits.
That's
That's
a good
great.
show. Yeah,
oh,
that's
nowadays it is. But
ACL, man.
when I was a kid, I mean, like a 8-9-year-old up
Yeah,
to
you
6th
ain't with it.
grade,
Yeah.
I didn't listen to the kind of music they played on Austin City Limits. And my dad would sit there. I think it came on Sunday nights, and we would have to watch that stuff, man. And it is just, I don't know. So now they have like popular people go on it. It's like a big thing,
Yeah, it's huge now.
which I don't even know if it's still filmed in Austin. You know.
Yeah, yeah,
It
it's
is.
still rock.
But what you
still
can't
on, man.
tell me, the city limits have not changed since I was 11
Oh
years
my gosh,
old.
it just seemed like it had like a little crowd and it was dark and it just, that was about it.
There's some good like old videos though, like Jerry Jeff Walker and people like that playing. It's pretty good. Jimmy Buffett's been on there. A lot of famous people, but yeah, they're kind of cool to look at
tons.
on YouTube.
Kind of like the Saturday Night Live of country music. you know?
Kind of, sort of, yeah.
Except for it wasn't funny.
Yeah, it
Not-
could be.
no.
Not funny as
Not
Saturday
really.
Night Live.
Maybe
but
when Jeff Foxworthy was on it. Was he on?
I don't know.
Probably not.
I don't either. We'll have to Google that here.
I just watch the bands. I don't ever, or the singers.
Okay.
I don't watch it regular, but there's some good music on that.
So Matt, real quick, how did you know you were done?
I went into treatment, had those folks show up at my house. Wasn't very long after the tree thing was going on. I was laying in a chair. Everybody's left. Everybody's done with everything to do with me. Some folks showed up in my living room. I'm passed out in a recliner. Wake up. They're all standing over me, and they're like, look, man, you two choices. We got a place we can take. It was a detox. It wasn't even a rehab. They said, we can take you to detox. It's 2 hours away. They'll take you if you want to go. If you don't, we ain't got nothing else to do with you. And for whatever reason, I guess just that drug down, just tired of fighting it. I said, let's go. What's the worst that can happen, you know? And I said, they're going to let me take my cell phone in, right? Man, my cell phone was so busted, like I could do anything on it anyway. They're like, yeah, you can bring it. It's fine. I get over there immediately. They're like, give me your cell phone. But that was the start of it. And somewhere in there, I ended up picking a place to go to treatment from the detox, and they took a bunch of us in a van. And somewhere in that first 2 to 3 weeks there, and I was pretty spun out because I got to treatment. They sent me back to like a Brentwood type place for a couple more days. I hadn't been sleeping at all, and got me over that initial part. And I got back in there, and within a couple of weeks, and I was like, you know what? I got to give this a try. And I'm very grateful. The lady I had as a counselor, once I got in there and got through that part and started meeting with her, she just bluntly said, let's review your credentials coming in here. You weigh 152 pounds. You hadn't eaten in a week, hadn't slept in a week. Your shit is in a Walmart bag. What you brought up here is in a Walmart bag. What else? You're homeless, jobless, all those things. Shoes got holes in them. What are we going to do here? And I went, yeah, I think I'm done. I think I'm going to start listening to people. I didn't have a leg to stand on. There was nothing I could point to and say, look, I got this going on. I had nothing. And somewhere along there that clicked in. And I'll say another thing. They didn't let us have outside TV. We didn't watch all that stuff. They gave us an AA book and an NA book when we came in the door. And I remember reading them pretty quickly. The NA book's really easy to read. It's just stories. But I read through them. So I went into my counselor and I said, hey, can I have another book? And she goes, you finished the AA book and the NA book? I said, yeah. She goes, we'll start over again. And that's what I read for 97 days. And there was nothing but recovery. And so I didn't have a choice but to focus on that. And man, I'm so grateful for it. It was a tough place, but somewhere in there, I made up my mind. We got to try this.
So Rod, how'd you know you were done?
You know, I guess when I slipped and hit my head, here's the thing about that. That was on the 26th of November. And I was scheduled to have back surgery in February, early February at some point. And in any event, the doctor had told me, there's two things you got to do before surgery, 30 days before we operate on you. You got to quit drinking and you got to quit smoking. He said, or it's not going to last.
Was that like an either or thing, or?
No, it was both.
Oh, you had to quit both.
Both at the same time. Well, here's the cool thing. After I quit drinking that day, it was the following week. My wife gets a call from the doctor. They had a cancellation, and they had an opening on December 27th. She said, let's get him in there as quick as we can. And so that was 31 days or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
But that's a pretty cool deal. So
Yeah.
I had that 31 days, and I was still in pain, up into that point. But the funny thing about it, when I go back and think about it, it doesn't really seem like I was in pain as much. But I do know that once I got out from the hospital, man, I was good to go. I mean, I had a little soreness in the back and stuff like that, but I mean, I was walking, I could stand up, all those fears of, well, is the doctor gonna cut a nerve he's not supposed to? Am I gonna end up in a wheelchair, or am I not gonna die before, laying on the table, and all those fears, and everything just worked out good. I mean, I'm glad I did it, because I know for a fact that I would not be living and breathing today if I didn't quit.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I had gone too far.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah.
Jill, how'd you know you were done?
I mean, I was incredibly ill. Like very, very sick. And I'd been going through withdrawals for years, and opioid withdrawals are fucking horrible. And I knew I was about to die. Like, I just knew it. And I didn't want to stop, but I knew I was about to die. And my mother had come over. She'd been banging on the door and calling me, and I wasn't answering. And she knew something was wrong with me. And she came in and kind of, poked around. And then when she was walking out the door, I just kind of whispered, I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. And she turned around. She goes, what'd you say? And she came in, and that's when, she took me to her place, and she worked on getting me in somewhere while, we finally got in touch with the place, but, got in that Monday. But the whole weekend, I just very sick, in the bathroom the whole weekend. But, I even going into treatment, there's, you have this conflict, this juxtaposition of, I know I'm about to die. However, I can't stop. And I wasn't convinced that this would be it for me. I wasn't. And even for a while, until I was in the halfway house. And that was about 3.5 months later. I was in a halfway house, and then I was like, okay, because I started seeing and feeling better about things. But I don't know when that really was, like, I was 100% convinced, like, this is what I got to do. But I knew that something had to change, because I knew that death was near.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just weird. I knew it.
It's funny, Rod thinks about the surgery with them cutting a nerve or whatever. This is totally random, but I thought about it. Do you know what I worry about if I ever go into surgery? Did y'all watch Seinfeld when Jerry and Kramer were up above that guy that was stomach was cut open, and they were eating candy, and Jerry hit his arm and candy fell in the guy in his body, and they sewed him up? That's what I worry about. I'm like, I wonder if they're gonna be eating peanut M&Ms and drop one in my stomach. Yeah. So anyway, that's just how I roll. That's what goes on in my head.
Yeah. No, I get it.
I think it was enough whenever I seriously was gonna commit suicide. I think that was for me, that I had that magical brain, and no matter how high our self-esteem or low our self-esteem or how smart we think we are, when that brain convinces you that it's the only way you're gonna beat this thing is to die. Mm-hmm. And there was just this moment of clarity there, and so a couple of weird things happened. But at that point, I realized, dude, you're talking about killing yourself. Like, you don't do that. Like, this has gone too far. This is, the divorce wasn't enough, the kids leaving and not having anything to do with me, family none of those things was enough. But whenever I started realizing my brain is trying to convince me to kill myself, that was enough. And that was actually very many times after. I've been to treatment many times before that. And I would get out and just go drinking, But anyway, that was my deal.
That's when it stopped working for all, and we had enough.
And I haven't really thought about it since.
I think that it was like my God consciousness, that I wasn't aware that I even had, saying that, because I was so bad in denial, like, hey.
I think I was just so full of shit that my ego was like, you can't kill yourself. The world needs you. You know, like, what would happen to the rest of the world? And
Well, here's the odd thing too. You know, by going through the program and stuff, you know, I share on some stupid things sometimes. It's whatever's relevant to me. And here's the thing, I hate reading, you know, whatever we're going to read, and because then I start preparing stuff and in my head and planning it, and it never comes out the way it's supposed to, you know. But talking about suicide and stuff like that, I've got 9 cousins, and all but one is alcoholic. 4 of them have committed suicide.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I don't
The
know. About
odds are
suicide,
not too
but
good for me.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I do have
Sure.
a lot of that in my family as well. Not necessarily suicide, but the addiction and alcoholism, you know, between me and cousins and siblings and stuff like that. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, guys, we've covered a lot. We have covered a lot, and let us not forget Coleman Week.
the week of Sir Coleman.
The week we can't forget Coleman.
He
Week.
is supposed to be coming on
good
here
That is a
to
good
celebrate his birthday, so it'll probably be next week. So it'll be 2 weeks of Coleman.
Super.
Yeah, we need some Coleman over here.
And
so
I reached out to Amy C. about using her story as a topic, you know, and she said it was okay to use names, so we'll be able to use names. So I still want to get into the whose happiness are you responsible for
Yeah.
complete episode, but that stemmed from something that Amy C. had told me one time about an interaction between her and her son. And she explained it all to me through Instagram message, right? So I'll be able to explain it more.
Okay,
and
cool.
maybe by then I'll be able to figure out the Bluetooth on this thing, and we can give Amy a call. Maybe she can tell that story.
that'd be good.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
great.
Because, and you know, I can screw up anything. So, but Rod, thank you for coming.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Look forward
Thanks
to
for
having
inviting me.
you
I
back.
enjoyed it.
Yeah, we're glad you're here. So we've been at Rule 62 Studios, and we've been right here in Bossier City, Louisiana. And as always, we've been the Grouch and the Brainstorm.